The house sat at the edge of timberland where the road gave up, pretending it was headed anywhere important. Slate Mercer liked it that way. At 45, he had learned that distance was a form of peace, the kind that let a man hear his own thoughts again after spending most of his adult life learning how to silence them. He split firewood in the mornings, fixed what broke, and kept his past where it belonged, locked behind habits no one questioned, and a calm that never quite faded. Before I tell you what happened next, subscribe the channel and let me know in the comments where are you watching from. It helps more than you know. The trouble began with a letter. It wasn't threatening. It didn't need to be. Official stationery, heavy paper, a city seal embossed at the top like a badge pressed into flesh. Slate read it once, then folded it neatly and set it on the kitchen counter beside the coffee maker. His wife, Erin, noticed immediately. "Bad news?" she asked. Slate shook his head. "Just noise." She raised an eyebrow. Erin was 44, sharp-eyed, and long past believing reassurances without context. She had learned slowly that when her husband said something was noise, it usually meant it was testing him. The letter invited Slate to a discussion regarding zoning compliance on a parcel of land adjacent to his property. The language was polite. The intent was not. Slate already knew what this was about. The town of Blackridge had grown faster than its conscience. Development money flowed in from places no one could quite trace, and suddenly quiet land like his had value. Slate had declined every offer, politely at first, firmly after. That morning he drove into town anyway. City Hall was a squat brick building that smelled faintly of old paper and newer arrogance. The mayor's office sat at the end of the hall, door open just enough to signal control rather than invitation. Mayor Preston Rowe did not stand when Slate entered. "You're hard to reach," Rowe said, smiling without warmth. Slate returned the smile. "I don't answer sales calls." Rowe chuckled as if that were charming. "This isn't a sale. It's cooperation." Slate took the chair opposite him, posture easy, eyes steady. "I'm not interested." Rowe leaned back, fingers steepled. "Everyone's interested eventually." Slate didn't argue. Silence did more work. Rowe sighed theatrically. "You've got a family out there, nice place, remote. Sheriff's response time is slow." Slate felt the shift. Subtle, deliberate. "That's a strange thing to bring up," Slate said calmly. Rowe leaned forward. "Strange things happen to people who don't understand how power works in Blackridge." Slate stood. "Conversation's over," he said. Rowe's smile hardened. "You walk out that door, things get complicated." Slate paused, hand on the knob. "They already are." At home, Erin saw it in his face the moment he stepped inside. "What did he say?" she asked. Slate set his keys down carefully. "Enough." Their children were in the living room. The older one, 18 and restless with plans that reached beyond the county line. The younger, 16 and observant in ways that made Slate both proud and uneasy. Slate looked at them, really looked. That night, headlights rolled slowly past the tree line. Once. Then again. No one stopped. No one needed to. Slate stood on the porch long after the house went quiet, listening to the woods reclaim the dark. He pulled out his phone and scrolled to a number he had not touched since leaving a world where problems were solved with distance and patience. The call connected on the second ring. "Didn't think you'd ever use this again," the voice said. Slate watched the tree line. "I need a name," he replied, "and I need to know how far this goes." There was a pause. "Sounds like trouble found you," the voice said. Slate exhaled slowly. "It always does. I just prefer to meet it on my terms." He ended the call and went inside, locking the door behind him. Outside, Blackridge slept comfortably, unaware it had just leaned on the wrong family. And once pressure like that was applied, it never stayed a simple request for long. Slate Mercer did not rush. He never had, not when waiting kept people alive and impatience got them killed. The morning after the meeting with the mayor, he followed his normal routine. Coffee, a slow walk of the property line, a few minutes checking the fence where deer liked to test it. From the outside, nothing had changed. Underneath, everything had. The call he made the night before came back just after sunrise. Slate listened with one ear while he tightened a hinge on the shed door. "Rowe isn't acting alone," the voice said. "He's the front. Development money runs through a shell company registered 3 counties over. The pressure comes from a regional consortium that likes quiet land and quiet owners." Slate tightened the bolt until it stopped resisting. "Names? I'll get you a few." the voice replied. But understand this. Roe likes to scare people first. He escalates when fear doesn't work. Slate ended the call and stood still for a moment, eyes closed, cataloging angles. He could feel the shape of the problem now. Not a single threat. A system that expected compliance because it had always been given. At breakfast, Erin watched him over the rim of her mug. "Someone followed you yesterday," she said. Slate met her gaze. "Yes, someone followed the kids after school," she continued, steady but not calm. "Slow car. No plates on the front." Slate nodded once. "I'll handle it." Erin set the mug down. "You always do. Just tell me what this is." He didn't soften it. "The mayor wants our land. He thinks pressure will make us sell. And if it doesn't?" Slate hesitated, then spoke plainly. "Then he'll try to make us afraid." Erin didn't look away. She had learned who she married years ago, not from stories, but from the way he watched doors and chose seats. "Then we don't give him that," she said. By mid-afternoon, the pressure took form. A county inspector showed up with a clipboard and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He cited a drainage issue that had never existed. Promised follow-up. Promised fines. Slate thanked him and took notes. An hour later, a deputy rolled past the driveway twice and parked just long enough to be seen. Slate stepped onto the porch, hands visible, posture relaxed. The cruiser moved on. That evening, the kids asked questions. "Why are there cars out there?" the younger one asked, peering through the blinds. "Town business," Slate replied. "Nothing for you to worry about." The older one frowned. "That's what you say when it is something to worry about." Slate smiled faintly. "It's also what I say when I've got it handled." After dinner, Slate drove into Black Ridge and parked 2 blocks from City Hall. He didn't go inside. He didn't need to. He watched who came and went, who shook hands, who avoided cameras by habit rather than chance. Mayor Rowe left late, laughing with 2 men Slate did not recognize. One wore expensive shoes not meant for sidewalks. The other carried himself like someone who issued instructions for a living. Slate followed at a distance until they split, then turned back toward home. Halfway down the county road, his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered without greeting. "You don't like being told what to do," Rowe said, voice smooth and familiar. Slate kept his eyes on the road. "I don't like threats," Rowe chuckled. "That wasn't a threat. That was concern. For my family," Slate said. "For everyone involved," Rowe replied. "This town grows. People adapt. Or they get buried by change." Slate slowed the truck just enough to let the words land. "Careful," he said quietly. "You're choosing language." Rowe's tone hardened. "You think you're special? I think you're sloppy," Slate said. "And I think you called the wrong number." The line went dead. At home, Slate walked the perimeter again after dark, listening to the woods, the distant hum of traffic. The place's sound fell away. He marked tire impressions near the gate and took photos. He did not erase them. He sat at the kitchen table and opened a folder he had hoped never to use again. Not weapons. Paper. Dates. Maps. A list of contacts who understood leverage that did not require noise. The next morning, the pressure escalated. A social worker knocked at the door asking about a complaint filed anonymously. The questions were polite. The implication was not. Slate answered once, invited her to inspect the house, then thanked her for her time. She left unsettled. By noon, the zoning notice arrived by courier demanding a hearing within 10 days. Slate smiled at the precision. Fear liked deadlines. He made 2 calls. The first secured a meeting with a land use attorney who owed a favor. The second went to the same voice from before. "I'm done waiting," Slate said. "I want everything." There was a pause. "If I give you this," the voice replied, "you won't be able to put it back." Slate looked out the window at his family gathered in the living room, pretending to watch a movie. "I don't put things back," he said. "I finish them." That night, a truck idled at the edge of the property and cut its lights. Slate stepped onto the porch, unarmed and unhurried, and waited until the engine turned over and disappeared down the road. Inside, Erin watched him closely. "Is this getting worse?" Slate shook his head. "It's getting clearer." In Black Ridge, fear was supposed to work quietly. It had just met someone who understood how to make it answer questions instead. The evidence arrived in pieces, never all at once. Slate Mercer preferred it that way. Fragments told more truth than polished confessions, especially when people believed they were still hidden. He spread documents across the kitchen table after the house went quiet. Property transfers that made no sense on their own. Zoning amendments approved in meetings that technically never happened. Shell companies layered just deep enough to discourage curiosity. Aaron sat across from him, reading silently, the only sound the faint hum of the refrigerator. "This is bigger than land," she said finally. Slate nodded. "It always is." Blackridge looked ordinary in daylight. A town square with fresh paint, banners about community pride, a mayor who shook hands at ribbon cuttings. Slate watched it from a distance and learned where the polish thinned, who avoided eye contact, who lingered too long in the mayor's office after hours. By midweek, the pressure shifted from public to personal. The older kid came home late, jaw tight. "A guy followed me from the bus stop," they said. "Didn't say anything, just smiled." Slate didn't ask for details. He didn't need them. He asked one question instead. "Did he try to get close?" "No." "Good," Slate said. "If he does, you call me." Immediately. That night, Slate drove to the ridge above town where cell service dipped and the road narrowed. He parked, waited, and watched the glow of Blackridge settle into its routines. He called the voice that had been feeding him pieces and asked for something specific. "I need to know who Roe answers to," Slate said. The answer came slower this time. "A regional developer with friends in places you don't see on letterhead. They move money through municipal bonds and call it revitalization." "Names," Slate said. "Careful," the voice replied. "Those people don't bluff." Slate smiled faintly. "Neither do I." The next morning, Mayor Rowe held a press conference on the steps of City Hall. He spoke about growth, about opportunity, about protecting the character of Blackridge. Slate watched from the back of the crowd, hat low, posture unremarkable. Rowe's eyes found him anyway. That afternoon, a black sedan pulled into Slate's driveway and stopped just short of the house. The driver stayed inside, window down enough to be seen. Slate stepped out onto the porch and waited. Rowe didn't get out. He didn't need to. "You're making this hard," Rowe said, voice carrying easily across the gravel. "You're making it obvious," Slate replied. Rowe sighed. "I can smooth this. Zoning issues disappear. Inspections go away. Your kids get a scholarship recommendation. Your wife's business license clears without delays." Slate took a step forward. "And if I say no?" Rowe's smile thinned. "Then you learn how fragile quiet lives are." Slate looked at the sedan, then past it, at the road that led back to town. "You picked the wrong leverage." Rowe's eyes flicked toward the house. "Everyone has leverage." Slate shook his head. "Not the kind you think." The sedan left without spinning gravel, which told Slate everything he needed to know. Control was important to Rowe. Appearances mattered. That evening, Slate made 3 moves that didn't look connected. He met the land use attorney and filed a public records request that forced timelines. He forwarded a packet to a journalist 2 towns over who liked documents more than quotes. And he scheduled a meeting with a federal office that didn't advertise drop-in hours. The retaliation came faster than he expected. A stop sign near the house was removed overnight. The younger kid nearly got clipped by a pickup that didn't slow. A deputy apologized and promised it would be replaced. Slate took photos. The journalist called first. "This is interesting," she said. "And messy." "Messy travels," Slate replied. The federal office called next. Not with promises, with questions. Slate answered only what he could prove, then handed them the rest to verify. By Friday, the town buzzed with rumors Rowe couldn't control. A council member resigned for personal reasons. A contractor pulled a bid. A banker stopped returning calls. Rowe called that night, no preamble. "You think you're clever," he said. "I think you're exposed," Slate replied. "You don't know what you're doing," Rowe snapped. Slate's voice stayed level. "I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm removing your options." Silence stretched. "This ends with you gone," Rowe said. Slate looked at Aaron across the table, at the kids doing homework, at a life he had built carefully. "It ends with my family safe," he replied. "Everything else is negotiable." The line went dead. Later, as Slate locked the doors and checked the windows, Aaron touched his arm. "How far will this go?" Slate considered the question honestly. "As far as it needs to." Outside, Blackridge's lights flickered as a transformer reset, plunging half the town into brief darkness. When the glow returned, something had changed. Power, once questioned, rarely settled back into place the same way. And Mayor Rowe was beginning to understand that some men didn't retreat when pressed. They advanced quietly and they didn't miss. The first real crack appeared on a Monday morning. Slate Mercer noticed it not on the news, but in the way Mayor Rowe stopped smiling. City Hall was busy that day. Too busy. Cars lined the street. People went in and out carrying folders instead of coffee cups. Slate watched from across the square, seated on a bench with a folded newspaper he never opened. Pressure was working. Rowe emerged just before noon, flanked by two men who did not look like town employees. Their suits were darker, their posture tighter, eyes scanning instead of wandering. One of them spoke low into a phone the moment they reached the curb. Federal posture. Slate didn't follow. He didn't need to. He already knew what that meant. By the time he returned home, Erin was waiting on the porch. A woman came by, she said. Didn't give a name. Asked if we were thinking of relocating. Said the town would assist generously. Slate set his keys down. Rowe's running out of space. That evening, the retaliation stopped being subtle. A contractor hired by the county arrived unannounced to survey the tree line near their property. Slate walked out and stood beside him until the man grew uncomfortable. "Who sent you?" Slate asked. The contractor hesitated. "The mayor's office." Slate nodded. "You can tell them the answer is no." The contractor packed up quickly. At dinner, the older kid pushed food around the plate. "People at school are talking," they said. "About us, about you." Slate didn't dismiss it. "What are they saying?" "That you're dangerous." Slate met their eyes. "I'm careful. There's a difference." The younger one spoke next, quieter. "Are we leaving?" Erin reached across the table and took their hand. "No," Slate added. "This is our home." That night, Rowe made his mistake. He didn't send anyone, he didn't threaten, he showed up himself. Slate saw the headlights crest the drive just after 10. A single vehicle. No escort. Confidence born from years of never being told no. Slate stepped onto the porch before the engine cut. Rowe got out slowly, hands visible, smile rehearsed. "We need to talk." Slate didn't move. "You've said enough," Rowe sighed. "You're forcing me into corners I don't like. You put yourself there," Slate replied. Rowe's voice hardened. "I can make your life impossible." Slate tilted his head slightly. "You already tried." Rowe stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Accidents happen, fires, falls, kids make mistakes." The air changed. Slate took one step. Forward, just one. "Enough. You threaten my family again," Slate said calmly, "and I won't wait for paperwork." Rowe scoffed, but there was a flicker in his eyes now. Fear, thin but real. "You think your past scares me?" Rowe said. Slate met his gaze. "My past doesn't matter. My patience does." Rowe looked past Slate toward the darkened house. He swallowed. Then he did something Slate hadn't expected. He smiled. "You don't win this," Rowe said softly. "People like me don't lose quietly." Slate nodded. "Neither do people like me." Rowe turned back to his car without another word and drove off too fast for the gravel to hide it. Inside, Erin locked the door behind Slate. That felt different. "It was," Slate said. "He crossed from pressure to threat. And now?" Slate looked at the folder on the counter, the one he hadn't opened yet. "Now I stopped protecting him." He opened it. Inside were documents he had held back. Financial transfers, recorded calls, sworn statements that tied Rowe directly to intimidation, fraud, and obstruction. Not rumors, not impressions. Proof. Slate made one call. "I'm ready," he said. "Everything." The response came quickly this time. "Understood." By morning, Blackridge woke to unmarked vehicles near City Hall. Phones rang unanswered. Doors stayed closed longer than usual. Rowe did not appear in public. At home, Erin watched the news with the sound off. "Is this it?" Slate shook his head. "Not yet, because men like Rowe did not surrender when cornered. They lashed out, and when they did, Slate intended to be standing exactly where the blow would land. Mayor Rowe lashed out exactly the way Slate Mercer expected. Not with a speech, not with lawyers. With speed. The next morning, before the town finished its first cup of coffee, a patrol car rolled up the drive and stopped short of the house. The deputy stepped out slowly, hat in hand, eyes apologetic before he even spoke. "I've got an order," he said. "Protective, temporary. Says you're to remain off municipal property pending review." Slate nodded once. "From whom?" The deputy hesitated. "The mayor's office." Slate took the paper, read it carefully, and handed it back. "This won't hold." "I know," the deputy said quietly. "I'm sorry." Slate didn't blame him. Pressure flowed downhill. It always did. By noon, the school called. The older child had been pulled into the office and questioned about safety concerns at home. The younger was sent to the nurse for a wellness check no one could quite explain. Erin handled it with a steadiness Slate admired. She documented names, times, words. When she hung up, she met his eyes. "He's trying to rattle us." Slate nodded. "He's trying to create a record." That afternoon, the journalist published the first piece. It didn't name Slate. It didn't accuse Rowe directly. It laid out a pattern. Land deals, zoning reversals, intimidation complaints that never reached hearings. The comments lit up. People recognized the shape of it. They always did once someone drew the outline. Rowe responded within the hour. A press release called the article reckless. Another promised transparency. A third announced a town hall scheduled for the following evening. Slate smiled faintly. Town halls were not about listening. They were about control. He prepared anyway. The federal office called just before dusk. "We have enough to proceed," the voice said. "But understand this. Once we move, he'll try to go loud." "He already did," Slate replied. "He'll go louder," the voice warned. Slate looked out at the tree line where dusk folded into night. "Then we'll be ready." The town hall filled early. People stood along the walls, murmuring. Rowe took the stage with practiced ease, his voice calm, reassuring, indignant at all the right moments. "This community will not be intimidated by outsiders," he said. Slate listened from the back. Rowe spoke of growth, of safety, of lies told for clicks. He never said Slate's name. Then someone asked about the unmarked vehicles at City Hall. Rowe smiled. "Routine." Slate stepped forward. The room quieted. "I have a question," Slate said evenly. Rowe's eyes locked on him. "This is not the time." "It is," Slate replied. He didn't shout. He didn't posture. He asked questions, specific ones. Dates, approvals, transfers. Each one was a pin pressed gently into a balloon already stretched too thin. Rowe deflected, smiled, dodged, until he didn't. A man near the front raised his phone. "Is this the recording?" The room held its breath. Rowe's smile vanished. Slate said nothing as the audio played. Rowe's voice, unmistakable, discussing pressure, inspections, accidents that could be encouraged. "Not threats," he had said. The room erupted. Rowe slammed his hand on the podium. "This is fabricated." Slate met his eyes. "It isn't." The meeting dissolved into noise. Rowe was escorted off stage through a side door he had used 100 times before. Outside, cameras flashed. Slate went home. He didn't celebrate. He didn't assume victory. He checked doors, called the kids, and waited. The strike came after midnight. A fire alarm screamed from the shed. Slate was moving before the sound finished cutting the air. He reached it in seconds, extinguisher in hand, and smothered a small blaze set to crawl rather than roar. An accelerant. Careless, desperate. He took photos, bagged what mattered, made the call he had been waiting to make. "This is escalation," he said. The response was immediate. "Understood." Before dawn, warrants were signed. Rowe was arrested at home, cameras catching the moment he tried to smile and couldn't. Charges followed: intimidation, fraud, obstruction. The shell company names finally had faces attached. By noon, the protective order evaporated. The patrol car returned, this time to apologize in person. That evening, Erin sat with Slate on the porch, the kids inside, the house quiet again. "Is it over?" she asked. Slate listened to the woods, the distant road, the absence of engines. "Almost," he said, because men like Rowe did not accept endings easily. They clung to the last thread of influence they had left, and Slate intended to cut it clean. The final thread snapped without drama. Slate Mercer learned that lesson long ago. Real endings rarely arrived with noise. They arrived with paperwork, silence, and people quietly choosing distance. The morning after the arrest, Black Ridge felt different. Doors opened later. Conversations stopped when certain names were mentioned. The town did not mourn its mayor. It exhaled. Slate drove past City Hall once and did not slow. The flags still hung. The building still stood. Power, however, had already moved on. Interim officials issued statements filled with phrases like cooperation and review. Contractors canceled bids. The shell companies dissolved into nothing that could be reached. At home, Erin folded laundry in the sunlit living room while the kids finished breakfast. Ordinary sounds returned. The clink of dishes, a chair scraping lightly on tile, a laugh that felt unguarded. The older one spoke first. People at school are saying he's done. Slate nodded. He is. The younger looked up. Does that mean we're safe? Slate considered the question carefully. It means the danger chose to leave. That afternoon, a federal agent stopped by with a thin folder and a firm handshake. No congratulations. No speeches. Just confirmation that charges were moving forward and that no further action was required from Slate or his family. Thank you for your cooperation, the agent said. Slate smiled faintly. I value closure. By evening, the town hall meeting footage looped on local channels, then gave way to weather and sports. Attention drifted. It always did. That was the quiet mercy of endings. People moved on. Slate returned to his routines. He repaired the fence where it had been tested. He walked the property line and replaced the stop sign that had been removed, bolting it down himself. He slept through the night for the first time in weeks. On Sunday morning, the family sat on the porch with coffee and tea, watching mist lift from the trees. Erin leaned into Slate's shoulder. You didn't tell them who you were, she said softly. No reason to, he replied. You could have. I didn't need to, Slate said. That part of my life was about outcomes, not credit. The kids listened quietly. They understood more than they said. They had seen what pressure looked like and how it broke when met without fear. Later that day, Slate received one final call. Not from a friend, not from an official. From a man he had once trusted to speak plainly. It's done, the voice said. No loose ends? Slate closed his eyes for a moment. Good. He hung up and put the phone away where it belonged. That night, the woods settled into their familiar rhythm. No headlights passed the tree line. No engines idled at the gate. Blackridge slept with the relief of a town that had avoided naming its own corruption and survived anyway. Slate stood at the window and watched the dark, not because he expected trouble, but because vigilance was a habit that never quite faded. He felt no urge to escalate, no need to press advantage. The point had been made. The line had been drawn. Some men learned the cost of crossing it the hard way. The following week, Slate helped the older one prepare for a move that would take them beyond the county line. College forms, boxes, plans. The younger practiced driving with Erin in the passenger seat, laughter replacing tension at every missed turn. Life resumed, not untouched, but intact. On a quiet evening, Erin asked the question she had held back until she knew the answer would not change anything. Would you do it again? Slate thought of the letter, the threats. The night a man stood in the driveway and believed proximity meant power. Yes, he said, exactly the same. He did not say it with pride. He said it with certainty, because protection was not about dominance. It was about boundaries, and once those were enforced, the work was finished. Slate turned off the porch light and closed the door, leaving the dark outside where it belonged. And if you've been listening this far, subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments what time it is where you're watching from. It helps more than you know.